What's up, my know-it-alls? Well, it is time for another State of the video. And so we had the brilliant idea, as you can clearly tell, as Super and Mrs.
And
Super know-it-alls.
Super know-it-alls.
That's right. We're here to talk about the state of the DC universe. So hold on to your hats. If you got opinions, if you're part of the hashtag Snyderverse people, this may be the one for you. So pay attention. Let's go. Not long ago, news reverberated across the internet. All of them. All the internets.
Well,
Specifically about the hiring of James Gunn and Peter Safran, which that's not news. We're not here to talk about that. You guys know that. But it got us thinking, we were originally, before that information came out, we were originally going to do a State of the DC Universe then.
yeah. Because we did one for Marvel.
Yeah.
We had to do one for DC.
But so much has happened. The reason this hasn't come sooner is because from the minute those guys were announced and hired, it has literally been one thing after another. A week had not passed without hearing something about James Gunn and this and that, what's been canceled, Batgirl's been canceled, this and this, blah, 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 culminating in, Henry Cavill's out, but then he was in and now he's out again. It's like, it was so much chaos that we didn't want to enter our hat into that ring just yet.
Just yet.
Want to make sure, okay, seems like we have finally reached an equilibrium. So now we're ready to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
I'm really ready to talk about it.
Yeah, man, I'm down. Go ahead, throw it. Let's start it.
So,
Otherwise, I was just going to start generically, but get it.
No,
I'm down. You got a
so
plan.
I've never been a fan of DC.
Fair. That's fair.
So,
And I think I have, to some extent, given everything a chance.
okay, that's fair. Like, I've watched DC movies before.
Yeah.
Well, I was a big fan of Batman.
Sure.
I don't know what year it was.
1989? The original Batman with Michael Keaton?
Yeah, that one.
Right.
I loved that. Prince did the
Yeah.
soundtrack. Good old
Awesome.
Prince. But no,
totally.
I liked that. There were movies from the DC universe that I did like.
Right.
But it wasn't my favorite.
Okay.
And I think everyone realizes that even as I've grown, I've always, gravitated towards Marvel. So
Sure.
now I've seen Peacemaker.
Yeah.
And
Which, by the way, we love it. We're not going to hide
Oh,
the
no,
lead.
I love that.
We love it.
Loved it.
Only reason I never reviewed it on the channel is because I like to keep the channel a certain level of clean. We like to be family friendly around here. I'll be very transparent. Makes all the advertisers potentially in the future we might get happy. So those are. That's why I didn't go there, because you'd have to be really explicit with some of that. We've debated doing a know-it-all after dark. I don't know. We might still experiment with that, because I know if Peacemaker season 2 is coming, I kind of want to talk about it, because I have loved Peacemaker to the point that the theme song I played for my daughter's softball team as one of their warm-up songs. Middle of the field, bam.
And the coach was dancing.
And that's when I knew. Yeah. Okay, that was amazing. Anyways. Okay, so back to this.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So I've seen Peacemaker, and I love the work that was done in Peacemaker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? And who did Peacemaker?
James Gunn.
Yes, James Gunn, who I love!
Well, dude,
Only
James,
because
man,
you gotta remember,
he makes you a believer.
I love Guardians of the Galaxy.
Same, and as a
And
comic
if
book
he's
fan,
gonna bring that to the table for DC,
why not?
then
Right.
I'm in. I am all in.
Agreed. I absolutely agree. And I know that for me, when as a comic book fan, Guardians of the Galaxy was a very little unknown. They've been around for a while, comic-wise, but it wasn't a very big popular title.
Sure.
So for him to take such an unpopular title and do something with it, he has taken. I've heard some people criticize James Gunn, saying, "Oh, well, is this the same guy who did Guardians of the Galaxy?" No, but some of these characters are going to need more serious tones. I absolutely believe you're going to get a more serious tone.
I think he did that. He showed that with Peacemaker. There were parts with characters that you had to be that required the seriousness.
Yeah.
The writing, whatever, or the actors and actresses, whatever, they pulled it off.
Agreed. My whole thing is, I feel like people are missing. What they're not counting is all that stuff you saw was a resume. I don't think it was a resume for this job. What I mean is, it was him saying, I can take something and make something from nothing. Guardians of the Galaxy, I believe, because I have no reason not to, he's going to stick the landing. So James Gunn has a history.
Yeah.
Okay, the holiday special that they did, Guardians of the Galaxy again, brilliant. So James Gunn has, for me, and Peter Safran as a producer of fine, wonderful, excellent films, they have both a track record that says we have no reason to give them anything but our trust, 100%, and I'm here for that. I really am.
I am. I get they've got to start brand new. I understand that.
I
do understand that. Unfortunately, the movies I did like from DC aren't going to have the actors and actresses that I would still like to see. But I get it. You gotta if you're gonna come in with you gotta clean the slate. Guns a blazing.
All I know is
guns a blazing.
I would love to see Henry Cavill play Jor-El, Superman's dad.
Oh my gosh, that'd be great.
I'm like, you know what?
That'd be funny.
Handoff. Do a nice proper handoff. Put him in a beard or something like, that whatever, and let him come in there and be Jor-El the same way that what's his face was Jor-El in the last. Oh my gosh, yeah, man, let's do it. I'm down. That'd be cool. I think it'd be fun.
Mm-hmm. So what's I guess another. First, let me ask you this. It's called the DCEU.
Right.
That's the James...
Zack Snyder. Yeah. No. Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder. And it's going to change to DCU now?
So,
or is it...
No, yeah, it's going to change to DCU. So the DCEU was always meant to be the DC Extended Universe. Extended Universe because what they were trying to lean into at the time was So DC's always been the people who had the multiverse way before Marvel ever had Earth 616 or whatever else.
I remember you telling me that because of the thing that happened in Flash.
Crisis on Infinite Earths.
There you go, Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Which was a brilliant example. Yeah. And again, by the way, State of the DC Universe is about to include television and games and everything. So we're going to also talk about the CW shows because that's part of, I think, the state of where things were. You had television at the time with the DC with Warner Brothers CW having unprecedented success, and then you suddenly had the movies, which should have been something special and weren't really carrying the torch. Now, mind you, I'm a massive fan of Man of Steel. I loved Man of Steel. Okay, Superman has been one of my favorite heroes forever. I'm a huge fan of the Black Superman. He has a fun, clever L name. I think it's like Zor-El or something silly like that. But and I love him very much, and I thought he was cool. But I've always loved regular Superman for what he stood for: truth, justice, American way. Helping the little guy, whatever else. I like Batman kind of perfunctorily, but overall, Superman's always been. If I had a favorite superhero, it's Superman. Spider-Man comes a close second because of how I was introduced to the character. But Superman's always been the guy that I literally have. I have T-shirts like this before the movies were a big thing, and then I had this made specifically so that I could have conversations like this about it because I love this. So, yeah, man, there's been a whole when you get introduced to the multiverse of DC. That's why Extended was meant to be the shows, the comic books. This is an extension of those things. Okay. It was a very smart marketing attempt, even though they never really stuck that particular landing. But it made sense when you looked at the Joker, which was not in DC's cinematic universe. You have the Batman that was not also from their universe, and these other movies that were going to be part of a multiverse of storytelling. Right. So it was. I got it. They just couldn't stick it. I understood why they did it though, but it came afterwards. Man of Steel, Batman, all those things, they came first. Then they suddenly changed because it used to be people were like, "What is it? The DCCU, the DC whatever." Yeah. And then later it became no, it's the DCEU, and we're like, okay, whatever. and I think it was just a way of trying to distinguish away from. Okay. Whereas now they've got orders from David Zaslav, who's the president of Discovery, who's now the guy who runs everything. They have very specific. They want a 10-year plan, like Marvel. Bottom line, he walked in and said, why are we not trying to be like the people who've done it right?
Yeah, it's true.
Super smart.
Let's not reinvent the wheel. Right. Just
And then they began
Hiccup, yeah.
began these wholesale cancellations of things. Now,
Well,
some people like the idea, some people hate the ideas. Look, at the end of the day, I get it. They mainly because, for instance, there's a tax reason. So they canceled Batgirl, the Batgirl movie, which by the way was in post and done and almost ready.
yeah.
Like the movies, they spent the money, past tense. They canceled a whole bunch of series of shows that were going to be on the thing. They moved some things off the slate and shifted around some stuff. So at the end of the day, they were trying to. It was. Some people think it was a good decision because they kept citing this is not the quality we want. Fair.
Okay.
If your standard is going to be a standard of excellence, fine. Now the downside of that decision is they're making us have to hold them accountable. Because if what you provide is a garbage movie after you have said wholesale everything needs to be of a certain level of excellence and you canceled all these things, look, man, now, I'm not going to go down the road that says these choices are, they realize not being woke has nothing to do with who's playing what kind of characters.
Yeah.
It's everything to do with these stories haven't been good. They really haven't.
I loved The Flash, the TV show.
Oh my God, Grant Gustin as the Flash,
yes,
amazing.
I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
But it got to a point for me where, all right, I can't anymore because I just felt like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this was my perception. I just kind of felt like it was the same repeat of what was going on in Barry's life over and over again, especially when it came to his wife. So
it began to feel a lot like the site, like all the lessons in movement we're going to learn, we're going to forget by the first episode of the next season. And now he has to go on the same
it started.
every
Yeah,
time.
so
Very repetitive.
while I'm sad to see it ending,
yeah,
it's time.
Agreed. No, totally.
It's totally time.
Totally. And I'm sorry, but Greg Berlanti, who produced the original Green Lantern and was so angry at that he wanted to come back and really prove himself, brother, you did. And
Absolutely.
nobody will argue. Greg Berlanti built the CW. Now, you can get into profit arguments later, and by all means, in the conversation, have that conversation in the comment section. But the truth for me is that he went out, he started with Arrow. He basically did the road that James Gunn is on now, or was on. He took a character that was not that famous and not that popular, and made it the television version of Batman. Oh, you guys aren't going to give me Batman? Fine. Greg Berlanti said, cool, I'm going to make Green Arrow the grittiest, awesomest Batman analog you have ever seen. And he did. That show was amazing. My brother, who at the time was a Marine and did not ever watch these kind of things with me growing up. My brother literally calls me one day from Afghanistan or somewhere, and he's like, dude, have you heard about this? Have you heard about this show called Arrow? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, I just got the first 3 seasons on DVD because they had them in the PX. He's like, and I told Dad to order me the next 2 seasons, and I was like, dang, all right. And I was like, this is crazy. The show.
Dad did that?
Oh yeah.
Of course he did.
Yeah, no, totally. Are you kidding me? Oh no, absolutely. When my brother, we took good care of my brother in the Marines. Made sure he had all the stuff. Yeah. Thank you guys for your service, Marines. Anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So you get into this whole where you're right. They're the Flash is running hard on the show.
Yeah.
And then they do these great crossovers, which only I feel like the crossover while the cinematic universe is like slowly trying to teeter because it wasn't burning in flames yet. I feel like the television show was taking victory lap after victory lap every season, giving us Crisis on Earth X, Crisis on Infinite
You were
Earths,
so excited about that.
They were so good. It was like, oh my God, these felt like the comic book events that we grew up with. So, and then you get into some of the other movie stuff that's happening and people's, what's going on in terms of them. I'm talking about Ezra Miller. Let's just get into it. The Flash. They've pled guilty to some charges, and I feel like they are. Well, who cares whether or not they've learned their lesson or they're going to, or they're just doing it to get out of whatever. They are never going to be the Flash again. They're not. Ezra Miller is done being the Flash. The movie hasn't even come out yet. So we have to still see, and by all accounts, by the way, test screenings and everything, the movie is stupid good, which only makes all of this hurt a little more.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've heard the same thing.
Because you want to sit here and be like, dude, Ezra, Why? Why do people need to do this kind of ridiculousness? And but anyway, so now so the thought originally was that they were going to DC rather was going to use the Flash to potentially reboot the universe. You'd get Henry Cavill back as Superman. You'd get the pieces were in place.
They were starting to try come together,
turn the ship. Mm-hmm. The problem you were going to face is you couldn't steer it fast enough for the people who just shelled out billions of dollars to buy Warner Brothers and everything Warner Brothers has, which is Discovery. And that's okay. So what do? The next, honestly, best thing. They hired people and they gave them a mandate, and now we find out they're going to, before the month is out, we're going to get the first announcements about James Gunn's, the first piece of whether or not they want to call them this phases. It's probably going to be the first phase of the 10-year plan. Mm-hmm, okay, but at the end of the day, remember, these phases are all building up to a major event.
Right.
That major event could be a genuine, oh my God, what if that event is the actual death of Superman done right? Where you spend 10 years with Superman appearing in things, being a helper in things, because they want to hang their hat on Superman. And then you make the end a slug fest, knockdown. You make it everything that the death of Superman comic books were. Bro, let me tell you, for those of you playing at home, the death of Superman comic books happened years ago. Dan Jurgens led the way, along with a whole slew of other amazing DC artists, and they began telling the story of this juggernaut-style creature. But it culminated in Dan Jurgens' amazing artwork in the actual Death of Superman. Every page was a splash page. There were no panels. It told one story, and that was the story of Clark Kent fighting this monster. I say Clark Kent because Superman is a superhero. The only way you go the distance, the way Superman did, was you dig deeper, and he dug into the human being that he was raised to be, which is Clark Kent, and he knew he had to save everybody in Metropolis. I'm getting chills talking about it, man. I swear. I feel like I'm having some kind of comic book church right now. It was one of the most amazing. I remember reading that, riveted, because every frame was a piece of art, and frankly, every page I would love to hang up and own someday as a giant piece of artwork, because I'm telling you right now, man, it was such an amazing thing. If James Gunn has the balls to take us from, because remember, we're not getting origin stories. You take us from, and you make us fall in love with the Superman, which, by the way, us comic book fans know it's possible. Anybody online telling you, it's so hard to do a Superman, well, how do you have it? Blah, blah. Screw you people. The comic books have been doing it forever. Okay? I'm telling you right now, man, you get James Gunn. To throw everything, all the heart, all the love, everything he put into Peacemaker, Guardians of the Galaxy, the Suicide Squad. Okay? Because all those things were successful because of the love. You don't see a 400-foot or whatever the heck starfish fighting 8 nobodies,
oh my God.
Okay, and pull that off and make
it believable,
right? I was like, this is what the DC universe should have always been. Yeah. I got to sit here and I have to say, this makes total sense. And the James Gunn pick is such an enlightened pick that because I was literally saying this is what the DC universe should be when I saw The Suicide Squad, the one that James Gunn did. And the fact that he had the cojones to bring Starro as the bad guy. Okay, and they did a brilliant job. So I'm telling you, if he has the balls to start Superman here, introduce and pepper it in, get us to the midway point. You get us to the midway point. And then you give us some kind of a Justice League, so that's not even the big event. That's just the Avengers of this first 10 years. Meaning, because remember when Avengers was an Endgame and all that.
They're going to have to rebuild the Justice League because we're not getting Henry Cavill, we're not getting Gal Gadot,
right.
We're not getting and Ezra Miller. I'm sorry,
but I guarantee you,
do we know who? Is he getting us a brand new Batman?
Everybody, top to bottom, everybody.
Interesting.
Yeah. The Batman will stay its own. It's still part of the multiverse. The Batman is out here. The Joker those movies, they're going to exist. but they're not directly going to be connected to the main multiverse. So they're going to have, he'll get his own Batman, he'll get his own Superman, Wonder Woman, the whole bit.
What's the name of the guy that played Batman?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about Ben Affleck?
No, the one that just played the Batman.
Oh, Pattinson.
They won't bring him back. He only did one movie.
Yeah, no, he's got a trilogy under his belt. He's gonna do. He's getting 3.
But it's not going to fall into James. Got it. Thank you. I was like,
That's
how
like
is that going to happen?
We're getting a Joker sequel.
That's what they did with Spider. That's the problem we had with Spider-Man with Marvel, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of, but the same thing. Like, okay, just so I can put it together in my brain.
I got
okay.
you. Yeah.
Are we getting a new Suicide Squad? Do we know?
I'm sure we probably will, but again, remember,
but
Suicide Squad was brought up because they needed colorful characters. But Suicide Squad, truthfully, should be third tier when it comes time. The Suicide Squad will be, in my opinion, it'll be like WandaVision. It'll be like that, and when you get to that stage.
Oh, okay.
So you have, because they're gonna do shows also. I believe James Gunn is gonna do the Herculean job of writing the vast majority of this initial push that they're doing. I don't think he's going to write every movie in the 10 years.
I can see him doing that, though, because he's talented.
He's going to set the pace.
He's going to set the pace. He's going to set the tone.
You said it right there, but when you said tone, he's going to be the equivalent in television. You remember, we used to, as producers, there's the tone director, who's usually the guy who directs the pilot, and that gets picked up because they set the tone. Either if it's not going to be the same guy throughout the whole series, you hire someone like a David Ayer, you hire some big name, and tell him we're going to pay you to set our tone and go from there. So I could totally, as a tone director, I absolutely see them doing that. Okay. He's going to establish his footprint and say, this is what it is. Anybody who wants to write, I'm down. Be creative. Directors, make your thing. It better line up with what we're building. He's gonna be the Kevin Feige. So we're gonna get stories of people who are hired and leave because of a conflict, or who not conflict, but a disagreement, creative differences, whatever.
Sure.
Because if you don't, I'd be shocked.
Then you won't get what he wants to do.
Right.
What movies do we have coming out? I'm trying to not.
So this next, we have Blue Beetle, Aquaman, Shazam.
Stop there. Blue Beetle. I have never heard of that until...
Blue Beetle's a classic, he's a classic Justice League character. Blue Beetle and Buster Gold, it's a white Blue Beetle. He's a genius, almost like Tony Stark.
Oh, okay.
He's like Tim Cord is, I think, his name. But the version they're doing is Jaime Reyes. Jaime Reyes is a Mexican kid who finds an alien beetle thing that latches onto him like a suit. But it's so he's a different kind of Blue Beetle. But they still have Tim Cord, because Tim Cord, I believe, has been cast in the movie. So you're going to get Tim Cord as some form of classic hero guy who maybe experimented with stuff, and that's what gave him the money.
I will have to say, I do kind of like the way the DC universe, how people have their powers for whatever reason.
Sure.
Superman's an alien. There's accidents that happen that make other people, they're metas now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we learned that.
Yeah.
I do like the who they are, like some of their I can't think of the word.
Origin stories?
Yeah, some of their origin stories.
Some of them are fun, and I think we'll get
like
some.
Aliens can fall from space, like an alien beetle.
No, totally.
I mean, I think that's interesting. You know what I'm saying? When
is.
we think Marvel and aliens, we think invasion.
Sure. No, totally.
know?
Absolutely. And I feel like that's a huge, that's another big thing that's going to make the James Gunn's version of this universe, is that they're not going to shy away from the more fantastical versions of their stories. Mm-hmm. And I think they'll be, he's going to establish this universe first. And then, rather than trying to shotgun theory like DC was doing, first, they gave DC their own studio finally. It's the DC Studios, which should have always been the case.
Sorry, that's something I didn't know. I didn't know that they didn't have their own studio.
No, they were part of it. Was just Warner Brothers owning the DC. DC had an office where their creative came out of, a production office, but they wasn't there. They were under the Warner Brothers studio. Okay. So the first thing David Zaslav does is he goes, okay, first thing and foremost,
give me a studio.
Warner Brothers, we're taking DC away from you as a thing. They still oversee the production. But DC Studios, just like any other studio, will develop their own properties.
Oh,
then
cool. Okay,
then Warner Brothers gets brought in as a production partner, as the whole thing, distribution, the whole 9 yards. Okay, so they're setting it up right. but DC Studios will be able to control their own. Where they had to pass. That's where a lot of the think about it. That's where a lot of the communication problems were happening. At Marvel, you got to go through Feige. He sets the tone. Nobody's telling him what to do. He may answer up a little bit, but for the most part, they let him steer that ship because he always has. Imagine being any of the people who wanted to, Walter Hamada, whoever else, the people who run Warner Brothers. If you're creating stuff, you were hired separately. There was nobody overseeing the entirety of the storytelling. Yeah. So Zack Snyder was kind of given initially control of a lot of that. Zack Snyder was supposed to be the tone director. He set the tone for what they were doing before. The problem was that after they decided to part ways, it became utter and total confusion. For James Gunn to get his version of The Suicide Squad done, he had to pitch Walter Hamada. He had to pitch the people at DC or at Warner Brothers. That will never have to be the case again.
Okay.
James Gunn and Peter Safran, they came presented their plan. Now that their plan has been approved by the boss, they're
fine.
He can greenlight anything that he wants in order to make this plan happen.
Yep.
So basically, his movies have already been greenlit.
Right.
He just has to say. So he doesn't know. So that's cut so much time and development. Everything else. See, you got to remember the other thing is, if anyone's expecting we're going to get a DC movie next year, you're wrong. I would be shocked if we got a DC movie before 2025, possibly even 2026. Here's why. Now they might push something and rush something. I'm not talking about the existing stuff. Here's why. Marvel is currently working. They're working like a phase ahead. Mm-hmm. They're working on writing and they're developing the next end game right now. No matter what everything we're seeing has been in She-Hulk. If you watch, there was a special one of those little special things about the behind the scenes and stuff on Disney, and the director was talking about how she's like, oh yeah, when we started developing She-Hulk 3 years ago. They were still you still had Daredevil and those shows on Netflix when she was starting to work on She-Hulk. That's my point. They're going to have to be working early.
Okay. So I interrupted you with Blue Beetle. So you said Blue Beetle. Who else? What else are we getting?
Shazam. Fury of the Gods. Yeah.
I did like Shazam. I did.
I did too. I actually did too. I thought it was clever the way they
Aquaman 2.
Aquaman 2 is coming out, but that's the last time he's already said. He's already said that's the last time that he's going to play Aquaman, and we know for a fact he does already have a role in the new DCU. So, which everybody believes it's going to be Lobo. Lobo is their discount Wolverine, but no, without claws. I say discount Wolverine because he's very irreverent. He's an anti-hero. He kills people left and right, the whole bit. But he's also he's a race. He's the last of his race because he killed all the rest of them. He blew up his planet. And so he is stronger or as strong as Superman physically. Wow. He doesn't have super speed and he doesn't have heat vision, any of the other stuff. He's just as strong as.
Okay.
So he's always been someone who's been a pain in Superman's butt once or twice. So I'm interested to see how they fill that, how they bring him in. I could definitely see him having his own movie for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And we don't know if they have a second season of Peacemaker, do we?
So
we do or we don't.
So I don't know because we were supposed to have Henry Cavill back and they canceled that too. So at the end of the day, I believe, and James Gunn has said without saying it, because somebody had brought it up on the show on Twitter, and he said flat out, he goes, because somebody said, oh, so I guess James Gunn automatically gets Peacekeeper season 2, but we don't get Batgirl, and he goes, no, nobody said that at all. That's not true at all.
But he didn't say what.
Right, but I believe firmly he's trying. The insinuation was, yeah, no, my stuff's gone also. Like it's a wholesale reboot, start to finish.
That makes me sad.
It makes me sad.
Now,
go ahead.
Having said that, there is one DC show that I really do like, and that's Doom Patrol.
You know, I'm a big fan of Doom Patrol also.
Not a fan of Titans.
I probably should have been reviewing that. No, yeah. Titans, I'm shocked still exists. It is so categorically bad on every level. It's, to me, it is a hopped up CW show that but doesn't have the writing behind it.
Yeah.
You want give the CW shows that budget and they would have been better because Titans blows. And yeah, I guess that's my official review of Titans.
Will Well, I guess then my question is, are we going to lose Doom Patrol?
I hope not, man. But the other thing is they've said, see, Doom Patrol has had no real direct connection to DC. You haven't heard them refer, other than Cyborg and the Justice League. By the way, the Cyborg and Doom Patrol is a very different Cyborg than who's ever in the movies in the original Justice League movie.
Okay.
So there's every possibility, but again, there is a Cyborg. We're going to get a cinematic Cyborg, and I don't think it's going to be this kid from Doom Patrol. Okay. So at the end of the day, I do believe they do have to figure something out. Okay. Worst case, you let the show ride out. They have another season, but the show has no direct reaction or reflection.
No.
And to be fair, neither does Peacemaker. Yeah, you saw that cameo at the end.
But that's just because, and then you mentioned the Justice League. And when we have, I get it. We all, what's her name?
Amanda Waller.
Thank you.
That's who you're talking about. Amanda freaking Waller.
I was wondering if
she's not in it anymore either.
Oh,
no, Amanda
she was
Waller,
such a good person to not like.
She was a
did a great
Amanda
job.
Waller. She was great. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they do come up with next. Like, because for a fact, again, these guys they're no slouches. Okay, Guardians of the Galaxy gave us the likes of Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt was a relative unknown before that. Can you imagine who the next stars are? I believe James Gunn is going to make stars. Don't get me wrong. So did Marvel in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. That's what they do.
Chris Evans was middling at best. He wasn't a great actor. The most superhero thing, right? Scott Pilgrim. The most superhero thing he had done was Human Torch, which, by the way, I believe we're going to get to see him again as Human Torch and as an alternate version of whatever. And then you get all these. I believe James Gunn. Like, for instance, I don't think Superman's going to be cast as a known actor. I think we're going to get a brand spanking new guy as Superman. If he's smart, we'll get a brand spanking new guy as Batman. And a brand spanking new woman as Wonder Woman. Don't get me wrong, I love Gal. But let's do this, man. If we're gonna do it and do it right. Give us
all in. People. Like I think James Gunn will just throw everything in, all the eggs, all the bacon. Well, all the bread right in the basket.
If you want to make the villains your famous people to start.
That's actually a really good idea.
Why not?
I mean, your audience will recognize your villain then, and at least that would draw audiences in. Not that he's going to need it. I don't think James Gunn's going to need it.
I don't think so either. If anything else, he's going to get either a look-in audience because everyone's going to want to know what's going on.
I'm really
sorry. That's more television verbiage. Look-in audience is what they call it when you have a pilot that everyone's interested in, because that first audience score may or may not be real. But yeah, I'm excited to see.
I'm excited to see what is ahead for DC because of James Gunn, and I know there's a lot of fans out there who are not happy about this move with DC, but for people like me that hasn't been able to enjoy a lot of DC stuff, to see someone like James Gunn to come over and to DC and just that I was excited when I heard it.
I agree.
I was just excited, and I can't wait.
I can't either. So okay, so let's call it. Unless you have more, do you have something else you want to say?
No.
So let's call it. How do you believe the state of the DCU is?
I believe it's going in the right direction. This was a really smart move to get James Gunn on board and Peter Safran on board. While I'm going to be sad to see these actors go, he's going to cast people that are just going to become big again. Become big. So
yeah, that's huge.
I'm really excited. I know that sounds so cheesy, but I'm so excited to see what James Gunn does.
I agree.
I'm very hopeful.
Right. I definitely. I agree. I think the state of the DC universe is good. I think it's good. I think it's good. I think if we'd have done this video a month or two ago, we might have had a very different video.
Before getting all the other stuff. I mean.
Yeah, but I definitely believe that the state of the DCU is good. We'll probably revisit some of this when the first announcements come out as to what the projects are going to be, because I'd love to discuss a little bit more of that, and we may expand some more of this other stuff. Do me a favor, like the video. Thank you so much for clicking on it, by the way, and watching. Subscribe to the channel so we can, and click the little bell icon to be notified when we drop new content. But yeah, man, I've appreciated this conversation.
Me too.
I'm excited for what's coming, man. I look forward to it. So, all right, guys, we'll never forget.
Everyone loves a know-it-all.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.